So Stacey Thompson is a candidate for school committee in District 1. And so I will turn it over to you to introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to the DEI Consortium-Lowell for hosting this spotlight. Really excited to be able to speak to people, or allow for more people to get to know who I am. I'm pretty much an open book. So if you ask me a question, you're going to get some type of an answer. I'm not sure if you'll love it, but you'll get an honest and a real answer from me. That's genuinely what people will say about me. Really excited because, this is a time where, because of everything that's happening in the city, I took a step out on faith, and because I had conviction to actually do what I'm doing, which is running for District 1 school committee. For those of you who don't know anything about me, I was a teacher for 11 years. I started my teaching career at Bridge Over Troubled Waters, which, if you've heard anything about it, is a homeless organization, which was really kind of, when I will say trial by fire educational experience, it was absolutely that, but it was amazing. It was one of those experiences that made me recognize the value of and the ability to change lives that teachers possess. Now, that probably sounds funny because if you read anything on my website, you know that my mother was a teacher for 45 years. So education is absolutely something that was in my blood to do. As far as the DEI Consortium, I think Bobby said it, full disclosure, I was absolutely a proud member of the DEI Consortium-Lowell and did work on the letter, worked along with Sue and many other people. And I'm very proud of what came out of that. I also hosted the Speak Out. So that was really exciting, as to be able to do that and to be able to hear from students and community members and get to really hear what they thought and what their experiences were, and to validate them. And that's why amplifying the voices has been something that I've always done. I've done it in my personal life. I've done it in my professional life as an educator. Right now I'm working in a space as a communications manager. And, even in that, I am still, making sure that the voices of people that are in this city, the city of Lowell, which I have lived in 16 plus years, are heard and are validated. And so that's a little bit about me. Not sure what else you would like to, if you have any questions, please do send them my way.
Great, thank you so much, Stacey. I'd invite you to say, you did already, but if there's anything specifically you'd like to talk about in relation to the letter, maybe
Absolutely.
in particular in relation to the school committee and or Lowell schools.
Yeah, the first thing I will say is that I was really excited that the public schools did, declare racism as a public health crisis. And I think that was really a moment of hope for me, because there's so much that the schools can do and so much that the students can become if people recognize the value in the students and in the schools. And so for me, that was a really exciting moment. What I will say is, for those of you who have gone to my website at all, I call them Staceys Three Es. So I tried to make it as easy as possible to kind of know what I was talking about and where I was coming from. Those 3 E's are equity, empowerment, and educational excellence. Now, when you hear DEI, you obviously hear, the diversity piece, and which is what people cling to, which is great, but I will already say Lowell is diverse, right? That's not so much the issue as far as, is there a diverse city? We have a diverse city. Now, we might need to get the people into the positions and into roles. That's absolutely imperative. But for me, the equity piece is really, really important. And I say that because diversity without equity is flat. And so, you really need to make sure that people are getting into the positions, getting into the roles, understanding, the value in difference and the value in, allowing for people to have a space and being able to speak and learn the differences. So in my platform, one of the things that I want to do, which at first people, when they heard it, thought it was a little bit silly, but one of the biggest things when I've been speaking to parents that they've been speaking about is the food, and not their children not liking the food, believe it or not. And, so when I was hearing from them repeatedly, and I consulted with who I call my advisor, AKA my mother, and we came up with this plan, which is called time to eat. It's time to eat. And this program for me would really be taking the food that is served in schools and tying it to a historical context. So you're learning about culture, you're learning about history. So you're not just eating food that's yummy and that's good. You know, everybody wants good food. I love good food. But it's more so important to empower people to know about different cultures. Why is this a staple food in this country? Why is it something that's, you know, a cultural necessity for, you know, somebody that is from a different country to eat this particular food? So it allows for people to learn about diversity and in a way that's not nerve-wracking or doesn't make them unsettled. And I think that's really important. So I have that. But also for me, equity is really about getting, you know, all the special education students to get them to have a fair shake. You know, it's funny because when people hear diversity and equity, they automatically go to the black and white of it. And I will have that conversation all day because that's also important to me. But it's also making sure that all these children have a good and equitable experience in high school. They don't just go through and say, yeah, I went to school in Lowell. I want them to have fun. I want them to have good memories. I want them to feel like they're learning and that they can thrive. And so for me, that's also a really important component of what I look at when I think about, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm not sure if I have any questions that have come through.
Thank you so much, Stacey. So yes, we have a question from Justin Ford.
Yay!
Who will be on an upcoming candidate spotlight?
Absolutely.
So what is your opinion on mask mandates for children and teachers within the Lowell school system?
You would ask this question, huh, Justin? We'll talk later. No, just kidding. No, this is a really good question. It's an important question. For me, it's really about being safe. You know, when you consider Lowell's population, which is very diverse, and if you're looking at any of the statistics and any of the, you know, the factual information, you're seeing that people that look like me, as well as the Latinx community, are at the highest risk of danger. And so I don't want, you know, people to be sick. I mean, that's the long and short of it. So yes, are they inconvenient? Do I want to have like a bonfire where we can all burn our masks after this is done? Absolutely, because I'm so tired of it and it affects my skin and all that good stuff. I'm over it, right? But one of the things I will tell you is, for me, I didn't want to get my mother sick. I was like hyper vigilant about, you know, making sure that when I was, you know, walking into the house, that I was constantly cleaning my hands and, you know, everything. I had a process for everything. So I don't want the teachers to be sick. And I do get that it's harder, but I also want, you know, if they're wearing masks, then they're staying in school. And I know for a lot of parents, that was an issue. I want my kid in school. So if it allows for them to stay in school and get that level of education, because I will tell you, having to stay at home was for a lot of people, you know, really challenging for the mental health component of it. And for just so much that these teachers, I have to tell you, oh my word, being able to pivot to do all this. I mean, overnight learning new software and learning new platforms to be able to do this it's unreal to me. So yes, I want to keep the everybody safe, but I want to keep people in school. So yes, the mask mandates are necessary for me.
Great, thank you. So Corey Robinson had his hand up. Corey, would you like to ask a question?
Not so much a question, but I noticed even with this current school committee, one thing I scratch my head about when it comes to the mask mandates and these guidelines, I noticed DESE is very vague. They've been very vague. They make recommendations, and it kind of leaves school committees and local government scrambling for a definite. As a member of the school committee, would you be willing to, you know, put your foot down and kind of rally the troops to demand a decision from DESE? That way, I mean, the finger pointing doesn't necessarily fall back on our local educators and our local school committee. Let the state kind of step up to the plate and tell the bodies on a lower scale what it should be mandated as opposed to recommendations.
Yeah, that's an awesome. DESE's been a quite interesting thing in the last couple of years. If you've followed what's been going on, it's kind of like, you know, I will give you some instruction, but not too much instruction, so you can kind of follow your own type of guidelines. So I do agree with that. I think that, being able to, first of all, anybody who knows me knows I have no problem speaking up. So that's a non-issue for me. I absolutely have zero problem doing that. And I think that that's what the students need and deserve. So yes, I would have no problem going to DESE and having conversations with that. And hopefully, being able to speak to the union as well and get them involved in the conversations, because I think that that's really important. That relationship is super important. So thank you for asking that question, Corey.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Yunji Choi. How could Lowell recruit more teachers who look like the students? I think a lot of us have that question.
Yeah, I have the question too. What I will say is, as I've been doing this process, I've been finding out a lot about how the process works, because I honestly didn't know, and it is different depending on what location you live in. What I will say is this is, having conversations about where the searches go. Where are the searches going? Are they, reaching out to organizations to find out where, they've been getting a lot of, Latinx people? Are they contacting HBCU education programs and saying, okay, we can get a lot of really strong candidates from these schools to come here? I think that that's really important. So, for me, it's my background before I was a teacher was actually recruitment. So that would be something that I would look at, how are they finding, how are they really looking at the process? Because that's usually the issue. Where are you putting it out? And then are we competitive? The reality of it is you have to look at right now, as if you're trying to hire anybody right now, $18 an hour to work at McDonald's. So again, are we competitive? Or what we're paying the educators competitive with what they are going to be doing? I think that's also really important. So that's kind of the way that or the angle I would tackle it.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Mary Wambui Ikop. Thanks, Stacey. What are your thoughts on charter schools, briefly? Secondly, how are decisions on whether there will be a bus in a route made? A friend was sharing frustration on her daughter not having a bus in their route. Having to drop children, especially for new immigrants who are really struggling, is a big hassle.
Yeah, I will say I'm a bus person. So I can tell you firsthand that I can understand why that would be a frustrating thing. This is the thing. As far as, let me start off with the bus schools, and then I'll go back to the charter. So the busing is really challenging. Obviously, right now, if you've been reading any of the articles, you've been seeing that there's kind of a stalemate between changing schedules and trying to do something with the different school systems that are functioning in Lowell. It is a challenge. I think what we have to do, again, go to the bus companies, have conversations. So I work in communications, right? For me, let's have a conversation. Oftentimes that in itself is not happening. There's like a lot of people sending emails this way and sending emails that way, and a lot of texting. Like, let's get in each other's face and hammer this out. Because for me, again, it's about the students, it's about the kids. Like all this other stuff, all the bureaucracy and all that other stuff, that needs to just get handled, because we need our children to get the education they deserve so that we can indeed move them forward. If you follow my platform at all, I say invest in our future. And that's what has to happen. We need to, forget all the other stuff that can kind of sidetrack us and get on task. As far as the charter schools, I will tell you that there are people that, believe in them wholeheartedly. I'm a public school person. My mom was a public school teacher. I went to public school. The reality of it is I see the value. I see there needs to be investment in our schools. That's what it is. It's not about taking and putting somewhere else and throwing, it's a Band-Aid, right? That's not, so if everybody constantly just, moves their children outside of that, then people don't see the point in investing in it. So that's part of the problem. So we need to invest in our schools. And I mean, infrastructure, I mean, in educators, we need to get more paraprofessionals in these schools. We need to get more social workers in these schools, mental health, workers. We need to get and staff our schools fully, because then it feels different. If you feel like it's patchwork, I don't want to send my kids to patchwork either, right? So when we invest in our schools, you'll see the potential and how far the kids can grow. And so I think that's I'm definitely for public schools. So that's my thought on that.
Great,
Hopefully I answered your question.
We have a question from Sherristan. I'm going to call you, sorry, I know it's Kirsten, but I still want to say Sherristan, right? Can you speak a bit about curriculum changes you are in favor of that would increase opportunity for Lowell students?
Yeah, for me, I will tell you one of the funniest days for me, and I know people are going to think it's weird, when they changed Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day, I literally cheered, right? Something that seems so minuscule, but it's not. It's like a big little thing. So for me, it's really looking at, what in our education has not been truthful. What in our education. So let's go to history. I'm a history person. I love history. What is not truthful? Who has been left out? And I will say people like me and a lot of the other people that are on here have been left out. And I'm including women in that, right? So the reality of it is there are more Black people in American history than Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and maybe, on a good day, somebody else, right? Sojourner Truth might get shoved in there. But the reality, there's way more people that invested in the fabric of this country. So for me, it's really looking at that and making sure that we're investing in the education. It's hard. I don't pretend to say that, looking at curriculum and changing it is easy. I will tell you, because I was a non-traditional school teacher, classroom educator, I had to create my own curriculum. There wasn't any. So I get it. What I want to do is actually create a pilot. And this pilot would be a curriculum designer. It would be teachers, because they are literally, I call them experts because they are. I would also include parents. I would include students in this program, as well as social workers and mental health workers in this, because I want it to be not just throwing the curriculum together, but let's look at it for its socio emotional learning capabilities. Let's look at it from our inclusive perspective. So that's, for me, how I look at it. It is not easy, and I know that, but you know what? Lowell's a mill city. We're used to hard work. We just need to get to work.
Thank you. We have a great question from Zaray German George. What are your thoughts on resource officers in our public schools?
Ooh, really? Zareus. This is the thing. I get the need for schools to have order, right? That's important. And I understand that. For me, what needs to happen in schools, first and foremost, is a step back. Because a lot of times people just want to jam people into roles, right? We need to have a lot of people in there. We need to have officers in there. We need to have this in there. And I'm like, okay, let's slow down and look what's been working and what's clearly not working. Because if you're, you literally keep repeating the cycle, guess what? It's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So I would look at it, what's been working. Then at that point, I would say, okay, what are the other things that have worked? Because I have, for example, a friend who is a principal of a school in Baltimore, which is, her school was actually one of considered the rough schools, which I can't stand when people attach those types of things, right? But what it was is she looked at how things work and how people are addressed, and giving students the ability to be, treated in a respectful way. Believe it or not, just even that made such a difference. So for me, what the schools need more than anything are more social workers, more mental health workers. That's, for me, what they need in order to move forward successfully.
Thank you. Sherristan has what are the top ways we can support your campaign?
Go to my website. So my website is staceyforlowell.com, and it's STACEY. Thank you, Van. Because people are like, how do you spell Stacey? It's EY. I always tell people without the E, it's Stacky. It's not really, I just don't like it. So just Stacey for Lowell, and it's the word for, not the number. And there are ways that you can come and canvas with me. I definitely need, people to do that, get some door knocking in. I'm really excited, and it's been fun to be able to do that and connect with people and really talk to people about what they want and need their schools to look like. Obviously, finances, I'm not going to be mad at that. If you can donate financially, that would also be fantastic. It does cost a lot to be able to do this. And this is my first time. This is, for me saying, I believe in the students, and I'm going to do all that I can to get in that seat to make sure that they have the best. And it's not about me. It's not about me taking a step to something different. I've been a teacher. I believe in the schools. I believe in the students. I want to invest in their future. And so that's why I'm doing this. Thank you, Kirsten. That was a good question.
Thank you. We have a question from Javan. What is your thoughts on how we can deal with bullying issues in the schools?
Yeah, this is, this is the interesting thing about bullying is when back in the day when we're bullied, they're like, suck it up, you're fine. But bullying is so different now because bullying now takes to social media and it is ugly. So, I have to say that I've been looking at and reading a bunch of different techniques that people have used. I would really have to invest in finding what's been happening here. I can tell you, I do know of, a few people because I've talked to a few students that have experienced it. And, a lot of it is one, maybe potentially having better relationships with organizations that, give students structure and give students also an avenue to, to be heard and seen for me. So for those of you who don't know, I'm also a playwright. I have been writing plays for over 20 years. And for me, that was a huge avenue. I also sing. And so the arts is a big deal for me. I feel like investing in the arts is really important and it does help with that. But bullying is multifaceted. And I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend I know every layer of how to deal with it. I do think that it's really important to have different activities and have different support structures around. And you probably gonna get tired of me hearing mental health workers in the schools, but it's such a need. It is a dire need. I have seen so much, and I will tell you, a doctor at one of the hospitals was saying in the summer, this past summer, at the beginning of the summer, that she had seen more suicide attempts than ever before, and that was heartbreaking for me. And she was talking middle school, so it's really important to make sure that we're investing in that. Because, we don't know what everybody's home life is and we don't know what's happening there. They need to have someone that they can rely on and confide in. I don't know if that's the, going to the headmasters or the guidance counselor. I don't know what that looks like. So that's another reason why I really think that it's important to have the, the mental health professionals in the schools.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question. If anyone has a question they'd like to put in the chat or raise your hand with. Well, great. Thank you so much. Let's all give a Zoom round of virtual applause for Stacey Thompson.
Thank you guys so much.
And to both of our candidates today, Bobby Tubielli for City Council at Large and Stacey Thompson for School Committee District 1. Thank you so much. Next week, we will have a candidate spotlight on Corey Robinson and Justin Ford. Keep on the lookout. If you would like to follow DEI Consortium-Lowell on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, if you'd like to contact us, just go get on our mailing list. You can email dei.lowell.ma@gmail.com. Everyone, stay safe, wear your masks inside, and be kind to one another, and have a great night. Thank you, everyone.